Laudetur Jesus Christus. This time, before we go any further, I would like to go over some additional verbs and their conjugation and their meaning, because in an effort to enlarge our vocabulary, I think it's very important not to just hear the basics and to see one example for each, but to explore a little bit the entire subject and to get an exposure and some familiarity, at least with some essential verbs. I try to find some that I consider truly of great significance, such as we already looked at, for example, the verb to be, esse, and the principal parts of that verb are sum, es, esse, fui. And conjugation in present tense is ego sum, tu es, ille, illa, illud est, nos sumus, vos estis, illi sunt. And I have an example, a sample sentence taken from the book of Exodus, chapter 3, where we read as follows: Dixit Deus ad Moisen, God said to Moses, excuse me, ego sum qui sum, I am who am. Dixit Deus ad Moisen, ego sum qui sum. Sic dices filis Israel, qui est, misit me ad vos. Thus you will tell the sons of Israel, who is, sent me to you. So there we see an example of the verb to be, esse, ego sum qui sum. The verb for to be able to, or as we say in English, I can or you can do something, the verb for that in Latin is posse. And the principal parts are possum, potes, posse, potui. And it is a composite of the verb we just looked at, sum es est, sumus estis sunt, and we add in front of that verb the letters pot, pot. So it would be pot sum, potes, potest, pot sumus, potestis, pot sunt. But the letters ts are changed into a double s. So it's actually ego possum, tu potes, ille potest, nos possumus, vos potestis, illi possunt. That pot is derived from a adjective potis, pote, which means to be capable or for something to be possible, from which we have such nouns as potency and potent, and in Latin we say potentia et potestas, power. So possum, potes, potest, possumus, potestis, possunt. And I have a sample sentence from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 20. Respondens autem, Iesus dixit, nescitis quid petatis. Jesus responding told them, or said, you don't know what you're asking for. And then he puts a question to them. Potestis bibere calicem, quem ego bibiturus sum? Can you drink the cup which I am to drink? Dicunt ei, and they say to him, possumus, we can. So again, respondens autem Iesus dixit, nescitis quid petatis, potestis bibere calicem, quem ego bibiturus sum? Dicunt ei, possumus. So Again, the verb is possum potest, potest, possumus, potestis, possunt. An important verb is to send. Mittere, mitto, mittis, mittere, misi, missum. And the present tense conjugation is ego mitto, tu mittis, ille mittit, nos mittimus, vos mittitis, illi mittunt. So mitto, mittis, mittit, mittimus, mittitis, mittunt. And we saw that again in that sentence where God speaks to Moses, Dixit Deus ad Moisen, ego sum qui sum. And then he continues, Sic dices filiis Israel, qui est, misit me ad vos, who is, hath sent me to you. Misit. As I mentioned before, many families of words can be derived by adding some prepositions to certain nouns or verbs. So from this mitto we can derive a great variety of meaning. For example, admitto is to admit. Amitto is to lose. Committo, to join or to commit. Dimitto, to dismiss. Emitto is to emit or to send out. Intermitto, to interrupt, from which we have our intermission. Omitto, to omit. Permitto, to allow. Promitto, promise. Remitto, remit or send back. Submitto, to submit. Transmitto, to transmit. And nouns such as admission, commission, transmission, emission, and the list goes on. So as we could see, you learn one verb and you can benefit from many other meanings. Let's look at the verb for want. I want something. I want. I wish. The verb is velle, volo vis, velle volui. Those are the principal parts. And the conjugation in present tense is ego volo, tu vis, ille vult, nos volumus, vos vultis, illi volunt. Very irregular, as you could see. Volo vis, vult, volumus, vultis, volunt. I have a sample sentence from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 20, where the mother of the two brothers of Zebedeus, two sons of Zebedeus, approached Jesus with a request. Tunc accessit ad eum, ad Iesum, to Jesus, to him. Tunc accessit ad eum. Tunc is then. Nunc is now. Tunc is then. Tunc accessit ad eum, mater filiorum Zebedei, cum filii suis. The mother of the sons of Zebedeus approached him with her sons, cum filii suis, adorans, adoring, et petens aliquid ab eo, and asking something from him. Quid dixit ei, who said to her, quid vis, what do you want? Quid vis. Again, volo, vis, vult. Volumus, vultis, volunt. Quid tu vis? What do you want? A very essential verb is the verb to do. We use that a lot. And the Latin for to do is ago agis agere egi actum. And the conjugation is ago, agis, agit, agimus, agitis, agunt. Ego ago. Tu agis, illa agit, nos agimus, vos agitis, illi agunt. And I have a sample sentence here from the book of Genesis, chapter 21, Vocavit angelus Dei agar de cielo. The angel of God called Agar from heaven, from the heavens, saying, dicens, quid agis Agar? What are you doing, Agar? And then he says, noli timere, don't be afraid. Vocavit angelus Dei Agar de cielo, dicens, quid agis Agar, noli timere. What are you doing? What do you do? So we had quid vis, what do you want? And quid agis, what are you doing? We all know credo in unum Deum, I believe in one God. Credo is to believe. Principal parts are credo, credis, credere, credidi, creditum. Present tense conjugation. Credo, credis, credit. Credimus, creditis, credunt. Ego, credo, I believe. The next example, next verb is I owe or I should do something. I ought to do something or I should do something. And the verb is debeo, debes, debere, debui, debitum. Ego debeo, tu debes, ille debet. Nos debemus, vos debetis, illi debent. And I have a sample from the Gospel of St. John, chapter 13, where Jesus says, si ergo, if therefore I wash your feet, si ergo ego lavi pedes vestros, Dominus et Magister, Lord and Master, et vos debetis alter alteriu lavare pedes, and you ought or you should wash one another's feet. So again, si ergo ego lavi pedes vestros, Dominus et Magister, et vos debetis alter alterius lavare pedes. So debeo, debes, debet, debemus, debetis, debent. A very irregular but very essential verb to know is the verb to go. And the principal parts are eo, is, ire, ivi, itum. And the conjugation in present tense is ego, eo, tu is, ille it, nos imus, vos itis, illi eunt. Eo is it, imus itis eunt. Perhaps it would sound a little more familiar if we add a preposition ex in front of it, which means to go out or to exit, and then it would be exeo, exis, exit, eximus, exitis, exeunt. I have a sample sentence from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13, where it says, Et ait illis, and he says to them, Jesus says to the apostles, Et ait illis inimicus homo hoc fecit, an enemy had done this. Servi autem dixerunt ei, the servants, however, said to him, Vis imus et colligimus ea, do you want for us to go, we go, and collect them? So we already saw vis, volo vis vult, volumus vultis volunt. So vis, do you want? Imus, we go, et colligimus ea. So again, the conjugation is eo, is, it, imus, itis, eunt. And we could again have a variety of verbs derived from this, such as habere is to depart, adire to approach, circumire to go around, exire to exit or to leave, inire, to begin, interire, to expire, obire, to die. We have obituary in English, right? A listing of people who have died. Obire is to die, perire, to perish, preterire, to surpass, redire, to return, subire, to undergo, transire, to go across or to transit, transire. And we have nouns such as initium, beginning, exitus, exit, transitio, transition, and many others. Next, let's look at the verb for to bear, to bring, or to carry. And the verb again is irregular. And the principal parts are ferro, vers, ferre, tuli, latum. Past tense is tuli, and past participle is latum. Very irregular. Present tense conjugation is ego ferro, tu fers, ille fert, nos ferimus, vos fertis, illi ferunt. And I have a sample sentence from the Gospel of St. John, chapter 15, where Jesus says, I am the vine and you are the branches. Ego sum vitis et vos palmites. Qui manet in me, who stays in me, et ego in eo, and I in him. Hic fert, he bears, hic fert fructum multum, much fruit. Quia sine me nihil potestis facere, because without me you cannot do anything. You can do nothing, literally. So again, ego sum vitis vos palmites, qui manet in me et ego in eo, hic fert fructum multum, quia sine me nihil potestis facere. So ferro, fers, fert, ferimus, fertis, ferunt, from which we could derive again many other families of words, such as confero, to bring together or to confer, defero, to bring down or to defer, infero, that to bring in or to infer, offero, to offer, prefero, to prefer, refero, to bring back, suffero, to suffer or to undergo, transfero, to transfer, and nouns such as oblatio, oblation, and offertorium, offering, and many others. Let's do one more, and with that we will have explored a few verbs and various possibilities derived from them. So let's look at the verb to have, which is habeo habes, habere, habui, habitum. And the conjugation is ego habeo, tu habes, ille habet. Nos habemus, vos habetis, illi habent. And I have a sample sentence from the Gospel of St. John, chapter 5. Dilectionem Dei, the love of God, non habetis in vobis, you don't have in you. Dilectionem Dei, non habetis in vobis. Non habetis, you don't have. Habeo, habes, habet, habemus, habetis, habent. So it's perhaps somewhat of a dry sort of an exercise to be looking at verbs and their various forms, but it's a necessary part of the study and of the process of become familiarized with Latin. So if you have to spend 15 minutes in a particular day in the study of Latin and you don't feel like speculating a whole lot about various issues, you might just want to take some time and review some of these verbs and say them, read them to yourself aloud, so that the sound more than the written letter is what remains in your memory, so that when you have to use any of them, they will automatically be recalled. You will say habeo, habes, habet, habemus, habetis, habent, debeo, debes, debet, debemus, debetis, debent, etc. So with this, let's close this particular episode, and next I would like to start talking about pronouns, a very important part of any language. It is impossible to speak or to say hardly anything without understanding and using pronouns. Valete.